Well, good morning. Hi, and how are you doing out there in internet land? My name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative, and welcome to a long overdue session of Front Porch Brunch, our weekend get together. We talk about the news, we give our views, we see if we can't solve all the world's problems, and have a whole lot of fun doing it. Again, my name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative, and welcome once again. And oh, I am so glad things are working. Thank God. I can see over on Rumble the OG wingnuts. They're jumping for joy. Well, I don't know about jumping for joy, but they're happy. Like, the dummy finally figured out how to make the technology work. Yes, I did, and I will give an update momentarily about what happened. So yes. Let's see who all is here in the house. Audio. Okay, audio was out of sync for a few seconds. It's good. Okay, the audio's good now. All right. Thank you, Z Highness. Mwah. Love you, darling. Glad you are here. Woo! It's been a while since we've done this. Mercy me. All right, let's see who all's in the house this morning. Gypsy is here. Might have forgotten what brunch tastes like. Don't you ever forget what my brunch tastes like. Thank you very much, young lady. But no, we're glad you're here. I love you, and I'm just messing with you. Mwah! Good morning, darling. Yes, I am back. Jump for joy. 199 indeed. Oh, there is so much winning. One of my favorite Canadian crazies, Adam, is in the house. Good morning to you, sir. The Duke is here. I've had 10 hours of sleep in the past 12 hours. Well, Duke, you're doing better than I am, daggone it. Oh, mercy me. All right, let's go over to Rumble. Let's see who among the OG wingnuts is here. TBA is here. Well, we're sitting here wondering if Rumble will work for Brian today. And WWG1 says, we shall see. Indeed. Yes, it is working. And I need to give an apology right now to the OG wingnuts over there on Rumble. I know what happened, and it has to do with the fact that there was some rust on my blade. Get your mind out of the gutter, you bunch of pervs. Anyway, when for those of you who've never set up, TBA is like, we got a raw deal. Yes, you did. And this is why I'm apologizing. For those of you who've never set up a live stream before, and I'm not trying to say that in any kind of condescending way, but just for the sake of discussion, if you've never set up a multi-platform live stream through StreamYard, the way that I do mine is this. I set up Rumble first before I ever go to StreamYard. Well, Rumble and StreamYard will interact with each other provided that you tell Rumble the stream key and the stream URL that you're using. Okay. Well, apparently, in my excitement to get a live stream up and going last week for the Wednesday night newsroom, I forgot to tell StreamYard, oh, by the way, here's the stream URL and here's the stream key. Okay. So Rumble came on and I was like, we're having problems figuring out how to determine where you're going. I'm like, wait. So that's what happened. So to the OG wingnuts over there on Rumble, my humblest apologies. That is what happened. Yeah, the stream key is very important. Indeed, you are correct about that, WWG1. And it just flat went out of my mind to do it. Well, the problem is after you set that up, I'm not going to say you don't have the ability to go get the stream key and the stream URL, but finding them is a pain in the tuchus. So, I was scrambling around desperately trying to find them. I couldn't do it. Finally, I just said, well, the heck with that. We're just going to go with YouTube. So that's what happened. My apologies to all y'all over there on Rumble. But hopefully, my brain is, the rust is off my brain. Yes, it is a senior moment, WWG1. I was having a very bad senior moment. So anyway, Zippy's in the house over there on Rumble. Good to see you, Zippy. Who else did I see just popped in here? Small Time's in the house. Good morning, sir. How are you? And lovely Lana. Wow, good morning, my dear. Oh, my gosh. Ooh, all these good-looking women. Oh, mercy. Oh goodness. Let's see. I'm going to the happeningest place here in town, Walmart. You know, Duke, that is probably, I mean, I'm not going to say that's the happeningest place in your town because you know your town better than I do, but you may be on to something. Um, you know, but like I say, you know your town better than I do. In my town, it is the barber shop or the ladies' beauty parlor, and yes, we still call it a beauty parlor here in my town. So there you go. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Zippy says, I've been up all night with rash after Walmart comes. I'm not quite sure how to take that, Zippy, but it's coming from you, so I'm just going to roll with it. So, okay. Oh my goodness. All right. WWG1 says, are you sure the thumbnails are real when it comes to all these good looking women? Now, wait a minute, WWG1. There ain't no good way for me to answer that question and not get myself in the sling. If I say, no, these thumbnails don't represent all the good-looking women, then the women are going to go, what do you mean they're not real? Then if I say, yes, that's going to lead me to something else. There ain't no good way to answer that question. I'm leaving that one alone, okay? You can have that. Oh, my gosh. All right. So good to see you guys this morning. Again, welcome into Front Porch Brunch. It's been a while since we've done one of these. I had company in here about 2 weeks ago, and then I visited the lady last weekend in Cincinnati. She sends her regards to all y'all, by the way. But yeah, it's been a little while since we've done one of these babies, so I'm really looking forward to it. Now, I got a question to start this out. And yes, we're going to go straight to the Merry Memes. Okay, do not worry about that. We're going to go to the Merry Memes. And even though WWG1's on a backup computer this morning, I've got a few of them lined up. And most of them are topical, as you might expect. Now, does anybody know anything that's happened in the past, say, 24, 36 hours that we really need to talk about? If you do, give me an F in chat, okay? Now, I'm being facetious when I say that because there's two subjects we're absolutely going to get into this morning. One of them has to do with the throwdown at the White House yesterday between Vladimir Zelensky and Trump, and J.D. Vance got in on that too. So, yeah, she's like, oh yeah, we definitely got stuff to talk about. Oh God. You. Let's see. Wait. I got to read this. Reminds me of that famous Family Feud moment where men were asked, which of the 7 dwarves your wife reminds you of? They all refused to answer. Exactly, Lana. There is no good way for me to answer that statement WWG1 made about, are you sure the thumbnails are real when it comes to the good-looking women? There ain't no good way for me to answer that question. So I'm out of there, okay? So, there you go with that. But yeah, we've got some memes, and most of them relate to the throwdown in DC yesterday. Zippy. Now, if you're gonna get yourself in trouble, son. You're gonna get yourself in trouble. Most of these memes relate to the meeting between Zelensky and Trump that happened in the Oval Office yesterday. But I'm gonna start throwing some of them up here. This one I think is priceless. I think this one's very, very funny. Speaking of dwarves, now let's see. Sneezy, yeah, okay. This is Dopey Dwarf, and Trump and JD Vance. I love that expression on JD Vance's face, kind of like, child, So there you go. There you go. All right, what else do we have in the way of the Merry Memes? Oh, here's another good one, kind of like the same picture. Oh, yeah, it is an accurate portrayal. Here's another good one. What is my money? Listen here, you little I mean, this is just I tell you what, the memes are glorious. Absolutely glorious. I mean, I'm sure that Brendan Dilley and the Dilley Army and all the meme makers out there all across the internet yesterday were just having themselves a gay old time with this. They were. Oh goodness me. All right. Let's see what else we have by way of memes. Oh. Did you guys hear about the international reaction to the dust up between Zelensky and Trump? I mean, dude, phone lines were lighting up all over the world, okay? I mean, for example, did you guys hear about these phone calls? I mean, uh, yeah, I mean, Xi Jinping's calling up Putin, then Xi Jinping's talking to Kim Jong Un. I mean, this was crazy. Phones all over the world were just like, bro, did you see what happened? This is great. This is absolutely great. Everybody's smiling, laughing about. This is just. Oh my gosh, this is just straight crazy. All right, what else do we have in the way of the marry me? Oh. By the way, this isn't necessarily a meme, but I think this is pretty accurate in terms of what happened after the dust up. You guys did hear that Trump threw Zelensky out of the White House, right? You did hear this, okay? Well, it's not just an issue that he threw him out; it's how he did it, and we actually have some video of that. If you want to see what it was, like when Zelensky got shown the door, well, folks, it goes a little something like this. Oh yeah, we're going to get into this too. We're going to get into this because this is this needs to be talked about. Okay, this definitely needs to be talked about. Oh yeah, we're going to get into this. Oh, what else do we have here? Did you guys know? Did you guys happen to know that when, according to White House staffers, that when Donald Trump was lecturing Zelensky in front of the press, he was actually channeling his inner Polly Walnuts. Now, for those of you who may not be familiar with what I'm talking about, Polly Walnuts is a character from The Sopranos, and I think you're going to begin to understand what I'm talking about. So here's Trump. Now you'll notice that the hand gesture that Trump is making here. Okay, notice that. Okay, coincidence? I think not. I'm telling you right now, Donald Trump was channeling his inner Polly Walnuts. Okay, from The Sopranos. So, just saying. Tell you what. Okay, let's get into this whole discussion about what happened. And I want to start out talking about the reaction of the Democrats, which I know seems a little bit odd, but trust me, I'm going somewhere with this. The Democrats did exactly what you would expect. I mean, they were just apoplectic that all this went down between Trump and Zelensky in the Oval Office. I mean, for example, I've got a story here from, of all places, the Huffington Post, okay, written by Igor Bobek. Doing Putin's dirty work. Trump slammed after clash with Zelensky in the Oval Office. You've got, for example, here you got a reaction from, let me see if I can enlarge this a little bit, make it easier for you guys to read. Hang on a second. What am I looking for? There we go. Yeah, that's better. That's better. Yeah, you've got Chuck Schumer, quote, Trump and Vance are doing Putin's dirty work. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer wrote in a social media post, Senate Democrats will never stop fighting for freedom and democracy. Quote, what an embarrassment for America, this whole sad scene, said Senator Chris Murphy, Democrat, Connecticut. Shame, 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 wrote Senator Brian Schatz of Hawaii. On and on and on it goes from the Democrats, okay? Amy Klobuchar noted Friday that Zelensky has thanked our country over and over again, both publicly and privately, and our country thanks him and the Ukrainian patriots who have stood up to a dictator, buried their own, and stopped Putin from marching right into the west of Europe. Shame on you, the Minnesota Democrat wrote in a social media post. Seth Moulton, Democrat, Massachusetts, called Trump a coward who was beholden to Putin. Quote, we just witnessed in the Oval Office was a meeting between two cowardly puppets and a hero, he said during an interview on CNN. Okay. Now, I start out with that because you got to understand the dynamics of what went on. Now, and I'm doing this primarily for those of you who may not have had a chance to dig into this thing or really find out what's going on. And I want to use an analogy from sports to help everybody understand what happened here, okay? Especially in the optics of it. Have you guys, and give me an F in the chat if you guys know what I'm talking about. Have you ever seen a situation, and this is particularly true in football or basketball, okay? Have you ever seen a situation where a referee calls a foul or a penalty on a player for unsportsmanlike conduct? Okay. So the ref blows the whistle and calls the foul or the penalty on this one player for unsportsmanlike conduct. What the referee usually does not realize is that the supposed victim in this is the one who instigated the other guy into committing the foul or the penalty. For example, and this is for you basketball fans out there, the legendary Dennis Rodman of the Detroit Pistons and particularly the Chicago Bulls in that great run during the 1990s that they had. Rodman was any number of things. He was a great defensive player. He was a great rebounder, but there was one thing above all else that made him valuable. Okay? Rodman could get in the head of an opposing player like nothing you have ever seen. Okay? What I mean is this. He would start talking to you. He'd get in your ear. Okay? Oh, yeah. He was definitely one of the Detroit bad boys. Yeah. He was legendary on those teams. So Rodman would start talking in your ear. Okay? TBA over on Rumble says Dennis Rodman was a classic on-court bully. I don't know that I'd use the word bully, but he was legendary. He was legendary for what he could do. And one of the things he could do really well, he'd get in your ear and he'd start talking. And he would get you so frustrated, so ticked off, that inevitably the opposing player would act out. He'd give Rodman a shove or he'd put him on the floor. Well, the ref, what's the ref going to do? Blows the whistle, calls the foul on the guy who shoved Rodman to the floor. What the ref didn't realize was Rodman was the one who instigated the whole thing, right? Okay. Now that sets up what we're about to watch next. All these Democrats out there, all these neoconservatives like John Bolton and Karl Rove, those two useless pieces of shite, okay? They're all moaning, groaning, and complaining, okay, about how mean Trump and Vance were. Oh my God, this is terrible for American diplomacy. Oh my God, our European allies. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. They're not, well, let me say, they are not being honest with the American people. Okay? Now, for those of you who know anything about what happened yesterday at the Oval Office, and this is not unusual, by the way, a foreign head of state comes to the White House. Okay? President greets them outside, brings them into the Oval Office, and they have a press opportunity. That's not unusual. I've been watching this stuff for years, just like all of y'all. It is nothing for this to happen. In the left-hand chair, right in front of the fireplace, is the foreign dignitary. In the right-hand chair is the president. There might be some members of the cabinet. The press is in the room. So this was normal, okay? And this press availability went on for about 50 minutes, okay? Okay? And everything is rolling along just fine until about the 40-minute mark when Donald Trump makes a statement, which, you know, we're going to play a little bit of this. But the thing that happens after that is a statement from J.D. Vance, and it sets off Zelensky, okay? So all these Democrats, these neocons are all complaining about, you know, oh my God, I can't believe Trump and Vance did this to Zelensky. This is terrible. He's our ally. You know, they're doing the dirty work of Putin, yada, yada, yada. But what no one wants to admit is that it was Zelensky's reaction to a statement from Vance that got the whole ball of wax started. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm going to play a clip. I want you guys to hear this, okay? With that, watch what happens.
Get this thing done. You want me to be tough? I could be tougher than any human being you've ever seen. I'd be so tough. But you're never going to get a deal that way. So that's the way it goes. All right, one more question.
Okay, now that's Trump finishing up his statement. He points to J.D. Vance, and here comes J.D. Vance.
Hey, I'm going to respond to this. So look, for 4 years in the United States of America, we had a president who stood up at press conferences and talked tough about Vladimir Putin, and then Putin invaded Ukraine and destroyed a significant chunk of the country. The path to peace...
Now do me a favor. Watch Zelensky. Watch his reaction during all this. Watch his facial expression. Keep your eyes on Zelensky.
And the path to prosperity is maybe engaging in diplomacy. We tried the pathway of Joe Biden of thumping our chest and pretending that the president of the United States' words mattered more than the president of the United States' actions. What makes America a good country is America engaging in diplomacy. That's what President Trump is doing.
Okay, now you're watching Zelensky in this. He's getting wound up. You can see him straightening up in his chair. He's heard what Vance has said. Okay, you can see the look in his eyes. He's got his hands, clenched together. Okay. Now that's what Vance said. We need a president that we need somebody to understand it's not just our words, it's our actions. Let's try the route of diplomacy. That's all Vance said, by the way. That's all he said. Okay? Now watch what happens next. Here comes in this case, to go back to my analogy, Zelensky is Dennis Rodman. The Ukrainian Dennis Rodman here is about to instigate this thing. And listen to how he does it. Right now.
Can I ask you?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So he occupied our parts, big parts of Ukraine, parts of East and Crimea.
He's talking about Putin now.
So he occupied it on 2014. So during a lot of years, so I'm not speaking about just Biden, but those time was Obama, then President Obama, then President Trump, then President Biden, now President Trump, and God bless, now President Trump will stop him. But during 2014, nobody stopped him. He just occupied and took. He killed people. You know what the contact line?
2015.
2014.
2014 is
Well,
2014.
2014.
Yeah. So
I was not here.
yeah, but,
That's exactly
but
right.
yes, but during 2014 till 2022, the situation the same. The people have been dying on the contact line. Nobody stopped him. You know that we had conversations with him, a lot of conversation, my bilateral conversation, and we signed with him, me, like a new president. In 2019, I signed with him the deal. I signed with him, Macron and Merkel, we signed ceasefire. Ceasefire. All of them told me that he will never go. We signed him with gas contract. Yes, but after that, he broken this ceasefire. He killed our people and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of.
Get this
Okay, I
thing-
want to stop right there for a minute. Let's talk about everything that Zelensky just said. Okay. Okay, with the understanding up front, I am not the best foreign policy expert. I'm just a fellow that reads the news. I listen to other people's opinions. Okay. So Zelensky claims diplomacy is not going to work with Putin. We've tried that. And then goes through this history of what happens. Well, first of all, there are many who would argue the history that Zelensky's laying out is not accurate to what happened. I would recommend to all of you right now, matter of fact, let me see if I can find it real fast because I want to drop this in chat because you guys need to hear this, okay? Give me one moment. Talk amongst yourselves. I'm trying to find something for you real fast here because this one you're going to want to hear, okay? You are definitely going to want to hear this because the boys from the Duran, as you might expect, okay, had a lot to say about this. Let me see if I can just copy the link straight out. Oh, come on. Come on. Help a brother out here. I don't want to download it. I want to just get my hands. There it is. Okay, I'm dropping this in chat on both sides. Okay. I'm going to really recommend and take the first 45 minutes of this live stream and listen to it because they refute everything that Zelensky just said. Okay, but let's lay that aside for a second. Okay, let's just lay that aside. Lay aside the possibility or strong probability that Zelensky just fed everybody a line of crap. Okay, you are the leader of a foreign nation. You are coming to the White House at the invitation of the president. Okay, your job is to show up, wear a nice suit. He couldn't even do that. And be gracious. And then, do some stuff in front of the camera. Then get behind closed doors. Okay. That's your job. Well, he couldn't even do that right. Okay. He didn't even do that correctly. All right. Oh, yeah. Small time. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. He's being dishonest. Okay. Now, you notice I called Zelensky the Ukrainian Dennis Rodman. That was the quote. That was the statement that set it all in motion. As opposed to being gracious in front of the cameras, wait till all the press is out of the room, and then if you have your disagreements, then you do it behind closed doors. Okay. Zelensky comes there and starts going through this list of complaints about Putin, which, okay, we know what Zelensky thinks of Putin. Okay. I get it. But that statement sets the whole thing in motion, and it leads to the now very famous clip that everybody is well aware of. Watch this.
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring it into this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Come once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military? And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems, even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future.
Now, right there, if he hadn't screwed up before, right there, Zelensky just stepped in it. Okay? You have big ocean between you and Europe, but you will feel the influence soon. I'm like, and at that point, the president had about enough. So here we go.
God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless.
You
God
don't know
bless.
that.
You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's exactly what you're doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
You will feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very
You
strong.
will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. Right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. That's back to you. Far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Okay, we're going to stop it right there. And I mean, I could keep playing it. It goes on for another 5 minutes or so. But you see what's happened here? Yeah. That's a great way of putting it. He poked the bear. When he dropped, and I know what he was trying to say. Okay. If you believe his argument about Putin taking over Europe and then you'll feel the influence of the Russians, across your waters. Okay. Maybe if I'm being generous, I give him that. Okay. Maybe. But even if you think that, do not be so arrogantly stupid enough to come into the Oval Office of the White House of the United States in front of the president and his vice president and members of the cabinet, which, by the way, the side eye that Marco Rubio was giving Zelensky was priceless. Okay? Do not come into the Oval Office and pull that crap. Wait. First of all, you wait till the cameras are out of the room. If you want to say some hard things, you have the good sense not to do it in front of the American press. Because there's no good way this ends well for you. If you're Zelensky and pulling this temper tantrum stunt, and that's what it is, it's a stunt, there is no good way this ends well for you. All right? No good way at all. Zippy says Zelensky's anger and rage should be aimed at NATO. Amen, Zippy. You're absolutely right. Yeah. I wonder how much the world would lose its collective mind if we just let Russia into NATO like Clinton promised them back in the 90s. That's a real good question, Lana. That's a real good question. Yeah, I mean, the American people are watching this. And by the way, there's a statement that Trump made toward the end of this. And I was talking about this with a family member of mine last night. That Trump made the statement, I'm really glad the American people got to see this as it was. We're gonna get to this too, Gypsy. We're definitely getting into this. We're gonna get into this, dear. Absolutely. But you don't do this kind of stuff. Oh, small time. I just saw your comment over there on the YouTube side, brother. Whoa. You had to feel bad for the Ukrainian ambassador, who, by the way, accompanied Zelensky to the Oval Office, right? You had to feel bad for the Ukrainian ambassador. Bless her heart. Now, supposedly this is her, okay? She's sitting off to the side, okay? She's listening to this exchange between Zelensky, Trump, and Vance, and just bless her heart, watch this. I mean, she's like, oh my God. Oh my God. Vladimir, will you shut up? You got to feel bad for this poor woman, or anybody in the Ukrainian delegation that's watching this disaster happen before their very eyes. Okay? I mean, I feel bad for the poor woman, and I don't even know who she is beyond her job title. Being from West Virginia, I'm going to give her, honey, bless your heart. Bless your heart. I feel bad for you. And I do. I do. I mean, laying aside my theatricality in this moment, gee, imagine me being theatrical. But you get my point. Nobody should watch this shite show go down. This is terrible. I mean, if I were her, I'd go find a hole to crawl in or a closet to never come out of or whatever. Everybody. I mean, I am genuinely serious when I say, honey, bless your heart. I feel bad for the poor woman. Good morning, Patty. Glad to see you, dear. Oh my goodness. Now, Dave, this is allegedly. Let us be very clear here. Allegedly, he's got a Colombian Bam Bam problem. But I mean, I feel bad for the poor woman. This is awful. Just plain awful. Right? And what were the results of this little 5-minute tirade that Zelensky went on? Okay, I got a tweet here from Jennifer Jacobs, who's the senior White House reporter for CBS. I want to read this to you, okay? Again, let me see if I can enlarge this, make it easier for you guys to watch or read it along with. High-level Trump sources tell me the White House is now uncertain. Now, listen to this. Is uncertain if they can get the Russians and the Ukrainians to stop fighting because this episode with Zelensky raised questions about whether he can move forward toward a peace deal. It also raises questions about whether the U.S. will pause aid to Ukraine, but Trump is not seeking regime change in Ukraine. No discussions about who in Ukraine might be a better leader than Zelensky. Ukrainian officials have reached out this afternoon to senior White House officials desperate to get the deal back on track. But that will not happen today, I'm told. Trump is unwilling to talk to Zelensky any further, at least for today. Jennifer Jacobs also writes, when Rubio and Waltz went into the Roosevelt room to ask Zelensky to leave, Rubio made it clear that any further engagements today would be counterproductive. Waltz, and which, by the way, Mike Waltz is the national security advisor, told Zelensky he had made a tremendous mistake and it was a grave disservice to Ukraine and to Americans both. No phone calls between Trump and Putin have been scheduled, but multiple European officials have called top Trump officials since Zelensky left, asking how the mineral deal can be salvaged. Trump fully intended to sign the mineral deal today. 2 official binders were prepared. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and his Ukrainian counterpart and the 2 presidents were going to sit at a conference table in the East Room and then trumpet their success at the podiums. But there were suspicions before Zelensky arrived that it might fall apart because the Trump administration had been pushing for weeks for a mineral deal signing at the ministerial level, and Ukraine had refused. Zelensky wanted security guarantees. U.S. officials thought negotiations would be much harder with Putin, so today have been in disbelief that it has been Zelensky who has been more difficult, making maximalist demands, sources told me. Oh my gosh, there's a ton to unpack in all of that. Oh my gosh. Hang on, I gotta get some water for this. I want to take you guys back in time for just a little bit. Okay. Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, had gone over to Ukraine to start working on a deal. Okay. And he supposedly had one hammered out with Zelensky. And then the next day, Zelensky's like, nope, we're not doing it. About a week later, Marco Rubio is sitting down in an interview with, I believe Catherine Herridge, and tells Catherine Herridge, we had a deal done. Next day, Zelensky's not going to do it. This is now the third time with this crap. Okay? The third time with it. And you begin to understand everybody's frustration, right? Okay. So Zelensky has himself a temper tantrum. And unlike Dennis Rodman, he doesn't hide what he's doing very well. Okay? If he'd have just goaded J.D. Vance and just sat back and shut up, he might have gotten away with it. But when he dropped that comment about you will feel the influence, that's when everything fell apart. Right there. And when I say it fell apart, I don't mean it just fell apart on me. The reverberations coming out of this are tremendous. Let's pull back for a second. There are individuals in this country, and we will probably profoundly disagree with them, who are still very sympathetic to the Ukrainian cause. Okay? There are members of Congress, for various reasons, that are still very sympathetic to trying to help the Ukrainians in their fight against the Russians. I think it's based on graft, frankly, in some cases based on bad ideology or bad intelligence or no intelligence at all. But okay, fine. But after Zelensky pulled this stunt Friday at the White House, I don't think there's many people left in Congress, especially among the neoconservatives, that are going to want to be, out the face of trying to help support Zelensky and the Ukrainians. If you don't believe me, here's everybody's favorite warmonger, Lindsey Graham, the most two-faced, duplicitous snake in the Congress, with a statement about the post-meltdown, okay? So give me a second here. We'll crank this thing up for everybody.
So, what I think? Complete, utter disaster. I've been to Ukraine 8 or 9 times since the war started. I understand the consequences of Putin's actions against Ukraine. I appreciate what the Ukrainian people have done. They fought like tigers. At the end of the day, I was hoping that this minerals deal, which would be transformative in the relationship, would go over well. I talked to Zelensky this morning. Don't take the bait. President Trump was in a very good mood last night. Somebody asked me, am I embarrassed about Trump? I have never been more proud of the president. I was very proud of J.D. Vance standing up for our...
Okay, well, hold it. Okay, there's only just so much BS coming out of this man's mouth that I can tolerate. May I remind everyone that it was Lindsey Graham, among others, who was begging Donald Trump to not put J.D. Vance on the ticket. Okay? So whenever I hear someone like a Lindsey Graham, I've never been more proud of J.D. Vance in my entire life. Oh, you lying sack of crap. Give me a break, you South Carolina snake. Whatever. If you had your way about it, J.D. Vance never would have been on the ticket. He wouldn't be vice president today. You and Rupert Murdoch and a whole bunch of others of you. So please, up to now you've been doing fairly okay, but cut the crap about how proud you are of J.D. Vance. Whatever. Well, that's a good question. That's a real good question. Okay, we'll get back to that in a minute. But anyway, some more from the old South Carolina snake himself.
Our country. We want to be helpful. What I saw in the Oval Office was disrespectful, and I don't know if we can ever do business with Zelensky again. I think most Americans saw a guy that they would not want to go in business with. The way he handled the meeting, the way he confronted the president was just over the top. So I think the relationship between Ukraine and America is important, vitally important. But can Zelensky do a deal with the United States? After what I saw, I don't know.
And you know what? Okay, I want to stop here for just a second. See, this, when I say the reverberations coming out of this, the neoconservatives in Congress now have a big problem on their hands. Big problem. And the problem is this. How do you be the public face of supporting Ukraine and pushing for more and more aid and pushing for more and more involvement in Ukraine after Zelensky pulled this stunt? Okay. Now, do I think that Donald Trump was goading Zelensky into doing something? No, I think Trump came there with the expectation, okay, we're going to do a press event, and then, we'll have some commentary, amongst ourselves. We'll go do lunch, and we'll sign this thing in the East Room, and we'll all be better off for it. Okay, I really do, and I'm not trying to make Trump sound Pollyanna here. I think Trump's a wide-eyed operator in a lot of cases. I think he's very much a realist. But I think that was Trump's honest expectation. We're going to come here. My people have worked this thing out. We'll do this press event here in the Oval Office. We'll ask the folks to leave. We'll have some comments among ourselves, for a little while. Go eat lunch, and we'll go sign this thing, right? And Trump was and the more Zelensky kept talking, the more he's like, I am not putting up with this nonsense. And when Zelensky dropped that comment about you will feel the influence, ooh, baby. That got the old part, without trying to sound disrespectful to Trump, that got the old dog off the porch. Okay. He's like, nope, ain't taking this no more. Oh my God. This was ugly what Trump did to him. But I mean, on and on and on this went, right? On and on and on it went. And now, supposedly, and again, take this for what it's worth. Supposedly, you've got members of the Ukrainian parliament calling for an emergency session on the question of whether they should impeach Zelensky over this. Now, again, this is unconfirmed. We don't know. Take this for what it's worth. I'm not saying it's gospel, but I'm just saying this is what's going on, supposedly. Okay? I'm telling you, and that's the short-term effect. But I also think that out of all this, I really do believe, I really do believe Trump's got a valid point. I don't even know if we can get a peace deal done with this guy. Now, I want to play you some more or show you some more things related to this, okay? So Zelensky had an interview set up with Brett Baer at Fox News, okay? This was already prearranged. And there was a big question about whether Zelensky would even go forward with this after this disaster at the White House, okay? And before I go any further, Lou Bozada over on the Rumble side, hello, Zelensky was a guest in our house. He has no respect or manners. Lou, you are absolutely right. Welcome in this morning. We're glad to have you in for brunch. Hang out over there. The OG Wingnuts will treat you right. So settle in, brother, because we're going to keep on talking about this. So Zelensky goes on. He still goes ahead with the interview. Because I think at that point, behind the scenes, his people are telling him, you have got to get out there and you have got to do damage control, you jackass. And you can't blame him. You can't blame him at all. So Zelensky goes on for an interview with Brett Baer. And one of the first questions become, can we get peace done? What can we do here? So here's his response to Baer on that.
Senator Lindsey Graham, Republican from South Carolina, he has been a big proponent of you and of Ukraine, said this today after the meeting.
I have never been more proud of the president. I was very proud of J.D. Vance standing up for our country. We want to be helpful. What I saw in the Oval Office was disrespectful, and I don't know if we can ever do business with Zelensky again. He either needs to resign and send somebody over that we can do business with, or he needs to change.
So he says you need to consider resigning. Is that on the table?
I don't know if he will be happy after my words. This decision can do only people of Ukraine.
You're not going to step down to do a peace deal.
No, I was always ready. I'm not sure that is a good idea for this such proposals. But anyway, I always said if United States will support NATO, so I think that it's enough for Ukraine. So I think I did all I had to do. And if somebody is not this happy with me, okay. But between us, yes, Americans vote for American president. Each European country vote for their president, and only Ukraine. With all respect to Lindsey, if I can say Lindsey, we know each other. Yes, and only Ukrainians.
Democrats.
Okay, I got some commentary about this. Okay, President Zelensky, let me explain something to you. Your country is not getting into NATO under Donald Trump. You might get into NATO somewhere down the line, but it ain't going to be under Donald Trump's presidency. That's not happening. Which, by the way, may I respectfully remind you, sir, even Joe Biden, who gave you billions and billions of dollars of our money and weaponry, said, you ain't getting into NATO. Okay? You are not getting into NATO. Furthermore, you are not getting our troops into your freaking country beyond what we may or may not have already committed to. Phooey on you. Forget it. We're not doing it. Quit talking about NATO membership. It ain't happening. Not under Trump. Like I said, you might get this done somewhere down the line, but it'll be after Donald Trump's gone. So please just give up on this whole, well, NATO. NATO's not happening, buddy. No, absolutely not. All right. Then we get into another question. Another very important question. And just absolutely. Sorry about that, folks. I got distracted. Then they talk about weapons and everything else and yada, yada, yada. Well, keep in mind, we gotta have help. We gotta have everything else. Well, even if we gave him help, would it really help? Well, listen to this.
Part of security guarantees. Now we want to find the place for our biggest strategic partner, for the United States, or United States will propose where and how the United States will give us security guarantees, what kind of and what part of volume of security guarantees. And when we will be ready with this, we will come to diplomacy. To diplomacy, yes, with Russians, Europeans, United States, and we. Four of us. I think this is real way, because with weapon it's too long, it's not enough. We don't have enough weapon to push them out, and we don't see now, for now, we don't see really big volume of new support from the United States, but with all respect again. So for today, we'll be ready with security guarantee.
Okay, so basically, you want us in a stalemate. You want a stalemate to keep going. I mean, this is crazy. Yeah, no one's obligated to help him. Nobody. Zippy, I saw you had to check out, brother. Good to see you. Glad you're here this morning. This is crazy. This is absolutely nuts. Think about what he's asking. We must have security guarantees. What the heck does that look like? What do you mean security guarantees? That we're going to constantly provide you with weapons? No, we're not doing that. We've done enough. Enough. All right, let's just take this argument and run it out. Security guarantees. So does that mean weapons or manpower? What does that do? Lou Bozetta over on Rumble says the rare earth minerals deal would have put Americans or contractors in Ukraine under Trump. Putin would not move on Trump or Ukraine. Good point. See, that's just it. Well, mineral deal, how's that going to do it? You can't dig minerals if people are shooting bullets. Think about it. Now, I'm not saying this deal that Trump is going to broker or try to broker is perfect, not in any way, shape, or form. Exactly. Yes, that is the security deal. We don't need anything else beyond the deal. I mean, Trump said the deal is the security. The security is the deal. And if Zelensky would actually have a moment of lucidity and think about this, he'd realize what Trump's offering him is probably the best thing he's ever going to get. They're not getting into NATO. Okay, Ukraine's not getting into NATO under Donald Trump. It ain't happening. We are not going to put troops in Ukraine, boots on the ground, beyond anything we may or may not have done at this point. But I'm trying to be a little careful with that because there is the possibility we got special forces over there. Okay, but laying that aside, we're not going to put boots on the ground over there, and there is no appetite to give you any more weapons or money. Okay? So you're not going to get these supposed security guarantees that you want, and you ain't getting into NATO. It's not happening, buddy. Not under Trump. Like I said, you might get this done somewhere down the line, but you ain't getting it done under Trump. It ain't happening. Contrary to the opinions of the Canadians, the French, and the British, which, by the way, if ever there was a pair of useless fools who are leaders of European countries, it is Keir Starmer of Great Britain and Emmanuel Macron of France. They are the dumb and dumber of European politics. I just can't figure out which is which. Who's dumb and who's dumber? Is it Macron or is it Starmer? I don't know. Take your pick. Sorry, I'm getting a little worked up here, especially when it comes to those two idiots. But I mean, he's asking for a fantasy. And I love it. When we have security guarantees, then we'll have diplomacy. No, big boy, you don't have any cards to play here. To borrow Donald Trump's phrase, you have no cards to play in this. You have no leverage. You don't get to dictate Bo Diddley in all this. So please don't sit there and come on American television and try and tell us, well, when we have security guarantees, then we'll have diplomacy. No! When you sign the deal, you'll have more security than what you got right now. Because like I said, ain't nobody going to dig rare earth minerals if there's bullets flying around. Think about it. We'd have to secure things on the ground in order to allow us to be able to even do any of the mining. All right, one last clip here. Brett Baer asks a very valuable and important question. Can this thing even be salvaged? Well, here's Zelensky's response.
Last thing, Mr. President.
Yeah.
Do you think your relationship with Donald Trump, President Trump, after today, can be salvaged?
Can be. Yes, of course, because it's relations more than two presidents. It's the historical relations, strong relations between our people. And that's why I always began with to thank your people, from our people. And this is the most important. And of course, thankful to President and of course to Congress, but first of all to your people. Your people helped to save our people. People, the first. Human rights, the first. This is very, very important. And we are thankful.
And sorry for this. I mean, we wanted very much to have only strong relations, and I'm very confident we will have it.
Oh, wow. I wouldn't bet on that, big boy. Not after that stunt you pulled. No, I wouldn't be holding out any hope here. You have, as to borrow an American expression, you have screwed the pooch. Okay? You have absolutely screwed the pooch. Now, I had mentioned a little bit earlier regarding this rare earth minerals deal.
President Trump.
Scott, I'm not ready for you yet, boy. I'd mentioned that Scott Bessent and Marco Rubio, not once but twice, thought they had a deal worked out. Okay? And when Zelensky was coming to the White House today, everybody, at least as far as I can tell, was under the expectation we're going to sign this thing, and now we move on to trying to get Putin to the table. Because we got Zelensky on one side, we got a deal in place there, let's go talk to Putin. Well, Zelensky blew the whole thing up. I want you to hear what Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, he was on with Laura Ingraham Friday night. I want you to hear his comments because we're dealing with somebody in Zelensky. I'm sorry, folks. We're dealing with somebody in Zelensky. You cannot take him at his word. Gee, I know I'm shocking a lot of my audience out there when I say that, but for those of you out there thinking, well, Zelensky, he's a good, decent man. He's trying to do the best thing for his country. No, I ain't buying that load of bull. Ain't no way. And if you don't believe me, check out these comments from the Treasury Secretary, and we will hear them right now.
President Trump sent me there to, again, we were supposed to bring the Ukrainian people closer to the U.S. people, send a strong signal to Russian leadership that they had not only shared values, but now shared economic interest, and also have a strong signal for the American people that their tax dollars were actually going to work. Instead, President Zelensky and I had a very tough 45-minute meeting at a very loud decibel level, and I kept telling him, Mr. President, the purpose of this is to show the Russians there is no daylight between us. And at the end of the meeting, he said, well, I'm not signing this. And I said, at the end of the meeting, I said to him, what do you want to go out and tell the press? I said, because I don't want to go out and show the Russians that there's daylight in between us. And he said, well, I'm going to go out and say I'll sign it in Munich. Then he got to Munich and he ran into Vice President Vance and Secretary Rubio, very different than Vice President Harris and Secretary Blinken. But he didn't sign the agreement. So finally, we were supposed to have the signing today. It was supposed to be a great day. And this is one of the biggest own goals in diplomatic history.
Well, I'm going to say something that for members of my audience, you're not going to find too shocking. For those of you who are maybe watching me for the first time and you're coming to my channel and you're like, he's handsome. He looks great in a fedora, but should I really listen to him? Yes, you should, because I do my best to lay down the truth here. Okay? Folks, Volodymyr Zelensky does not want peace. Let me say that again. President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine does not want peace. I don't care what he says. I don't care what kind of, poor, pitiful look he puts on his face. Okay? He doesn't want peace. For sure, there are two things he wants to happen. Number one, he wants U.S. dollars and U.S. weaponry to continue to flow into Ukraine. And number two, he wants to keep the fight against Putin going. Well, maybe not even Putin. Take Putin out of the equation for a second. He wants the fight against Russia to keep going. Okay? And as a third goal, kind of related to 1 and 2, he wants into NATO. He wants Ukraine as a member of NATO. Okay? That's what he wants. Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, does not want peace. And by the way, all this crap about him being a champion of democracy, may I remind folks out there who are watching this, Volodymyr Zelensky is months past the expiration of his term as president. Okay? They have banned churches and free press in Ukraine. Please don't lecture me about, Volodymyr Zelensky being a champion of democracy, being the Churchill of Eastern Europe. What a load of crap. This guy is a puppet. Someone's puppet. And by the by, supposedly, let me find it here real fast. Tell me I can get my hands on this real quick. Oh, yes. Here it is. I want to put this up on screen. And again, I want it understood. This is unconfirmed. This is someone's speculation, right? Supposedly, Anthony Blinken, Victoria Nuland, who's a member of the Secretary of State's office, or was at one time, Vindman, and Susan Rice, all of them Obama folk, privately urged Zelensky before he got to the meeting to stand up to Trump. Now, if that is true, and again, we do not know this of a certainty, okay? We do not know this of a certainty, but if it is true, then number one, they're in violation of the Logan Act, okay? And number two, they will have proven to everybody that they are the instigators and the continuing crap stirrers of this whole situation. Okay? That's what's going on here. They've got to keep this fight going. NATO has got to continue to expand east. And you know what? The part that cracks me up the most, all the Russians have ever wanted for years, and what they've been saying since the early 1990s, do not move NATO up on our borders. That's all they want. Just leave us alone. The West, for 30 years, has perpetuated this conflict, and when it finally got to Ukraine, Putin said, enough. You've pushed it far enough. No more. 17 George over on Rumble says, and first of all, good morning, George. 17 George says, NATO needs to be torn down, and that was supposed to have been since the night. Hey, I tell you what, it may not happen. It may not happen during Donald Trump's second term, but I would not be surprised if a like-minded person were to succeed Trump, if there would not be a serious move made to get the U.S. out of NATO. Which, frankly, I think needs to happen anyway. We should have dissolved NATO in the early 90s, or at a minimum, the United States should have withdrawn. I mean, if the Europeans want to keep NATO going, that's your own damn business. Fine, do it. Okay. Oh, really? Oh, really? That's interesting. Oh, my. TBA over on Rumble says, I'll bet you that Trump will defund NATO soon. Wouldn't hurt my feelings. And frankly, I'm going to say something's going to sound counterintuitive. It would be better for the nations of Europe, the Western European nations, if we ultimately did dismantle NATO. Seriously, it really would. The militaries of the French and the English in particular have completely atrophied over the decades. They are no longer a serious military threat to anybody. Because what is NATO? NATO is us. We're the ones funding the daggone thing. It would be better for the nations of Europe if NATO didn't exist anymore, because it would actually force them to reprioritize their spending to defend the borders of their nation. Truly, it'd be the best thing for them. Yeah, it'd be painful. The transition would be awful, but it'd be the best thing they could ever do. We have been defending Europe ever since the end of World War II. If you get right down to it, it's us. Yeah, the British and the French and, the Spanish, the Italians and, whatever. The best thing we could do is dissolve it. Lana says, if Europe is angry about yesterday, need I remind them that we bailed them out of 2 world wars, both with military support and financial. The taxpayers are done. Yeah. Lest we forget the Marshall Plan after World War II that spent billions of dollars rebuilding Europe. I mean, I'm sorry. Enough of this. Enough of this nonsense. This needs to stop. Now, there have been many things said about yesterday's meeting between Zelensky and Trump. Many people have been questioning what was the real goal in all this. I mean, everybody knows what Trump's goal was, but what was Zelensky's goal? What was he trying to do? Well, there was one moment during that interview with Brett Baer when Ukrainian President Zelensky was extremely honest about what his expectations were, what he was hoping to accomplish out of that meeting, and it really, really ought to be said. We've got the clip, so give me 1 second, folks, and I'll get started for you right now.
All I wanted was a little bit of money, just a little bit. I need money to buy a little bit of cocaine, I hope I can get cocaine from Hunter Biden. I'm not feeling well today. They took my cocaine at the airport. I need money so I can buy a little bit of cocaine, please.
If only we had known that if all we had known it was just that. I mean, I'm sure the DEA, the DEA or the CIA could have helped old Vladimir out with that one. I mean, I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. TBA's like, well, that's more on point. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Oh, my morning mayhem's in the house over there on Rumble. How you doing, brother? And by the way, congratulations on going over 1,000 on YouTube. That is absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. That is great. I was so glad to see that news. If you're not checking out My Morning Mayhem, do it. That dude is absolutely on fire with his live streams, his videos, everything that he's doing. So check him out. An absolutely fantastic guy and even better content creator. So, oh my goodness, Patty. Well, thank you very much, dear. That's very, very kind of you. With a super sticker for $4.99. Bless your heart, darling. Bless your heart. Oh, stop it. Stop it. Trying to be as cool as me. No, you're more cool than I am, sir. You are more cool than I am. So, but thank you both, Patty, and thank you, Chris, for My Morning Mayhem. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, this whole thing yesterday was a cluster F. I mean, just absolutely ridiculous. Oh my word. My Morning Mayhem gifted a subscription to the Front Porch Conservative. WWG1 picked it up. All right, now we're talking. Woohoo! Indeed. All right. Enough of this talk about foreign policy. Let's get into some internal stuff. And the stuff we're going to get into. But before we do, let me do a real quick commercial. For those of you who are, and I see quite a few people on the YouTube side checking out the live stream right now, and I genuinely appreciate that. Quite a few people checking us out on the Rumble side as well. If you're here for the very first time and you're saying to yourself, man, this guy looks really good, wears great clothes and a fantastic hat, and daggone, his commentary is just scintillating and conversational. Who is this character? Well, this character's name is Brian Trippett, and I am known in social media as the Front Porch Conservative. You have found your way to a live stream that we do here on the weekends called Front Porch Brunch. When we originally started this stream a couple of years ago now, wow, gosh, that's hard to believe. When we started this stream a while back, the idea was, look, everybody wants to sleep in on Saturday morning or had time with their family, which is totally cool. And they're looking for a very relaxed, chill way to, check out what's going on in the news and talk about yada, yada, yada. So we came up with the idea of a online brunch, if you will, a simple sit down together where we, drink some coffee or a mimosa, if you like that sort of thing, or a Bloody Mary, or whatever your beverage preference is, and just sit down. We talk about the news. And if you found this channel for the first time, I've got a platform on YouTube. I got a platform on Rumble. Do me a favor, subscribe in both places. It would really help me out. Much like Chris, I passed over the 1,000 subscriber mark on YouTube earlier this year, and I'm forever grateful to everybody who subscribed. And we're trying to grow this thing into something, a whole lot of fun. I would love to be doing this. Social media is like my full-time life and work and occupation. Although I have never formally worked in radio, I'm an old talk radio junkie. Okay. So if you find certain similarities to my style or presentation to that, so yeah, we're slowly moving on up. So if you like that sort of thing, subscribe on YouTube and Rumble, hit the thumbs up button, leave a comment in chat. Believe it or not, thumbs up and comments really do help with the algorithm. It really does. Share the link around with your friends. And also, very importantly, hit the bell for notifications. I want to make sure you are always aware when I'm doing new live streams or new videos. And we try and put out stuff on a regular basis on this channel every week, doing something, talking about the news. So anyway, with that, all right, let's get into the other big topic of the week. And this is one of those deals where, oh, man, there are so many. Well, hang on one second, because somebody sent me a message, and I got to see if this is related to. I got to see if this is related to one of my topics right now. So give me 1 second here. It's March 1st, and I'm asking. Okay, all right, never mind. Not necessarily related. Okay, all right, back to what I was getting to talk about. The Epstein document fallout. We got to get into this. Okay, we have got to get into this. Okay. And I've got, and there are people on all sides of this with various thoughts and opinions. And I am not settled in my mind. I am not settled in my mind about what's really going on here yet. Or maybe it's better to say I'm not settled in my mind about the forthrightness of some of the players involved. Okay. So I want to take you guys back in time to an appearance by Attorney General Pam Bondi on the Jesse Watters show on Fox News. And this is what got it all started. Okay. Now, for those of you who may not have seen this, the newly minted or almost newly minted Attorney General Pam Bondi goes on Jesse Watters to give updates about various things. And Jesse Watters asks her a question that is on the minds of a lot of people who are supporters of the president. And even if they're not supporters of the president, they are supporters of justice, supporters of full disclosure. They are supporters of trying to get to the truth about what the heck is really going on. And with that, here's the clip.
A lot of people are wondering, because you said last week that you have the Epstein files on your desk, is when can we see them and what's taking so long to release them?
I do. Jesse, there are well over, this will make you sick, 200 victims, 200. So we have well over 250 actually. So we have to make sure that their identity is protected and their personal information. But other than that, I think tomorrow, the personal information of victims. Other than that, I think tomorrow, Jesse, breaking news right now, you're going to see some Epstein information being released.
Now, this was on a Wednesday night. Okay. This is on a Wednesday night. Oh my God. Oh my God. Clancy, you Australian so-and-so, you no good muckety muck. First of all, how the heck are you? Second of all, you and I have got to get together and I've got 1,000,001 friends of mine on social media I got to talk to in the near future. But dude, I've been seeing your posts again on Twitter. I've been seeing everything. We have so got to get together and talk sometime. Seriously. We have got to do some chatting with each other. Brother, I'm glad to see you in the audience this morning. So good to have you here. Yeah. Yeah. We're going to get into this. Y'all hang on. I see it. And believe me, I got problems here. I got problems. And I guess part of why I want to talk about this subject is to kind of work them out. Because some of y'all have followed the Epstein stuff longer than I shouldn't say longer, with more passion and intensity than I have. Okay. All right. Yeah. And here's part of the problem. And we're going to get into this too. We're going to get into all this. Let's put it this way. I got real problems with the way that Bondi at this point is handling all this. Now, we got some contravailing stuff to go into too, but I want to set this up. So let's go back to the clip. We'll finish this out, and then we're going to get into where I'm going.
By my office.
What kind? Are we going to see who was on the flights? Are we going to see any evidence from what he recorded? Because he had all of his homes wired with recording devices.
Yeah, what you're going to see hopefully tomorrow is a lot of flight logs, a lot of names, a lot of information, but it's pretty sick what that man did.
Okay, well,
along with his co-defendant.
Absolutely, and he had help. That's for sure.
He sure did.
All right, now all that is Wednesday night. Okay, that's Wednesday night. Then, as we all have seen, the now infamous binder photos. Okay. You got DC Drano. You got, I think, Libs of TikTok. You got Liz Wheeler, Cernovich, Jack Posobiec. All these folks are at the White House. Okay. All of this. And this is the ultimate na. We got the binders. Ha ha ha. You don't have them, to the press. Okay. Now, I want to talk about this picture for just a second. Okay. I do want to talk about this. Regardless of what your motivations were when you were waving these things around in front of the cameras, regardless of everything else, okay, I'm sorry. And I say this with all due respect to these folks who were there. Okay. Given what the subject matter of this is, and that is information related to a pedophile, all right, who frankly he died in jail, but that doesn't even do justice to what should have happened to him. Okay. You don't wave this stuff around like you got the first bit of candy out of the jar, okay? No. You take the binder, you hold it respectfully, as far as I'm concerned, okay? As far as I'm concerned, you take the binder, you put it under your arm, you walk out of the White House. Okay? You don't rub somebody's nose in. Even though the press is deserving of having their nose rubbed in so many different things. Okay? Yeah, tacky is a good word for it. That's a great word for it. It was just tacky. Okay? I agree. That's probably the small time. That's probably the best way to describe it. So you got that angle of it going on. And again, remember what Bondi said. We're releasing information. Now, I'm going to get back to Bondi here in a second, but I want to try to be fair in this. So when all this went down, okay, those social media influencers who were in that picture caught hell from everybody. Okay. One of them was Liz Wheeler, who is the host of the Liz Wheeler Show. Oh, yeah. And there's been a lot of butt covering on this, too. Good morning, Courtney. Glad to see you here, my dear. Lovely young lady. So Liz Wheeler goes on Glenn Beck's program Friday morning to give her side of it. And I'm just doing this for the sake of fairness, but there's some statements that she makes that when you go back to Pam Bondi's statement to Jesse White, doesn't add up. Okay? Doesn't add up at all. But for the sake of fairness, I'm going to play this. And that's primarily why I'm doing this. It's not necessarily that I'm even taking Liz Wheeler's side in this or anybody else's side in this. I'm just saying, this is what they're claiming. So take this with a grain of salt, which I bring it to you. We're going to play a couple of 3 minutes of this, but and we'll stop where we need to, but I want you guys to hear this. So with that, here's Liz Wheeler's side of the story.
But again, let me tell the narrative.
Okay, go ahead.
I want to make sure that everyone knows what happened because people are angry, and rightfully so, because they felt like they were subject to a bait and switch, which was not the intention, I think, on anyone's part, certainly not on my part. So we were invited to the White House, and we were in meetings with all of these different cabinet officials, and Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, comes into the room with Kash Patel, the FBI director, and they talk to us about what they've been doing. They give us some glimpses of what's happening behind the scenes. And Pam Bondi then brings a stack of these white binders, these infamous white binders that say Epstein Files Phase 1 on them. And when we saw these binders, of course, all of our jaws dropped, and we had the same assumption that this was going to be the juicy stuff. This was what we've been waiting for. And almost immediately, Pam Bondi says, wait a second, this is not juicy. You're not going to find in these binders what you think you're going to find in these binders. Let me explain. And immediately she holds up that letter. I posted that letter on my X account. It was widely reported yesterday, and says, this binder is filled with 200 pages of Epstein files that was given to me by the FBI when I made the request, upon the request of the president, because he was fulfilling his promise, to declassify and release the Epstein files. I asked the FBI, give me the files. They brought me these 200 pages, put them on the desk, and assured me that this was all the files that they had. And Pam Bondi relates to us. She's like,
all right, I want to stop there for a second. And I want to go back to something that I believe was Gypsy. Let me find her comment here. Yeah, here it is. Pam Bondi was the attorney general in Florida when Epstein was running around down there. Okay. I was on a live stream the other night with Greg Bolden and his good buddy Chris Michaels. Okay. Which, by the way, they have a live stream together and you can find them on various places. Greg Bolden and Chris Michaels are fantastic. If you're not following these cats, you need to. Okay. And I got to give credit where it's due, because Gypsy reminded me of some stuff before I ever went on with him. Pam Bondi was the attorney general down in Florida when all this stuff with Epstein was going on. Okay? You mean to tell me? So the FBI walks 200 documents into her office. And supposedly Bondi asks the FBI, this is all of it? Seriously? Now, the reason that I'm extremely skeptical of Pam Bondi even accepting that idea, she should have known instantly this wasn't all of it. There were FBI offices in New Mexico, New York, Florida working on this case. Okay? The moment they walked in with 200 documents and said, well, you know, this is everything we got, Pam Bondi should have looked at them and went, bullshit, give me the rest of it. She shouldn't have even asked once, twice, 3 times. No, not even once. She should have said, BS, give me everything. This is not it, and I know it. You cannot tell me. You can't tell me that Pam Bondi does not have some idea of what the heck is going on here. And again, Chris from My Morning Mayhem, thank you for the gifted subscription over there on Rumble. It's genuinely appreciated. But I mean, Pam Bondi cannot be this naive, or is she being naive? Okay. I understand that Pam Bondi has been in her position now for 2 weeks, but I'm sorry. If you went in this naive about the Epstein documents or anything else related to the Justice Department and the FBI, are you really the right person for this job? Yeah, and that's another good question. Why not just release it that way? And yeah, Clancy, this is a real good point, brother. A real good point. Could be too. But anyway, I want to go back. So this is Liz Wheeler relating what's going on in this meeting when Bondi walks in with these binders.
Like, it seemed weird. I smelled a rat because this is all the files. This is all we have.
Now, this is what Bondi's saying to the FBI. Okay, so that we'll pick it up from there.
And she's like, and I repeatedly made requests to verify, are you sure this is all the files? And I was assured that this was all the files.
There is no way that Pam Bondi could have been under the impression. There's no way that she could have been under the impression that those were all the documents, such that she's turning to the FBI and asking that question, knowing full well everything that the FBI in Florida pulled out of Epstein's estate in Palm Beach, or anywhere else for that matter around the country. There are pictures of whole tractor trailer loads of documents and everything being loaded up. Come on, Pamela. But anyway, back to Liz Wheeler's telling of the story.
And she's like, you will find in this binder that it's a nothing burger, that we have most of this information already declassified and redacted. I do believe there's a few things in there that hadn't, but it's nothing salacious. It's just a contact list of phone numbers. It's nothing. And flight logs, stuff we already have. And she said, the scandal is that...
Now, wait a minute. Hold on a minute. Literally hang on a second. Sorry. Had to scratch my head. If Pam Bondi knew all this stuff was a nothing burger when she was talking to Jesse Waters the other night, then why did she make it sound like, ooh, we're letting out information, ooh? Why are you doing that? Why are you hyping people? Why are you letting people think, oh, now we're going to start getting some answers here? Why do that to people? Yeah, here's my problem. Here's my problem with this. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying anybody's hands are clean in this situation. I think the social media folks are just, I've got some problems here, but that most has to do with, optics. So anyway, back to this thing because I think this is a very revealing conversation. So anyway, So they've got the binders. It's a big nothing burger, yada, yada, yada. Now notice, Pam Bondi is telling them, supposedly, according to Liz Wheeler, everything in there is a big nothing burger. Pam Bondi's telling these people this. Okay? Let's pick it up from there.
Last night, after it was clear that I was going to release these documents, I got contacted by a whistleblower from within the SDNY, which of course is part of the Department of Justice, part of the FBI. And this whistleblower told me that the SDNY was hiding potentially thousands of more documents about Epstein because they did not want her to release it.
Okay.
Now,
let me stop there for a second. We'll pick it back up. Bondi is telling these social media influencers, hey, I got contacted Wednesday night by somebody inside the Southern District of New York's FBI office saying, hey, you definitely don't have everything. There's thousands of more pages of stuff up here. She's telling them this. Okay. So that sets up where we're going next. TBA over on Rumble says, I caution you, Brian, don't throw Bondi under the bus just yet. Wait to see how this plays out. I take that advice. I mean, like I say, I'm talking this stuff out, if for nothing else, for my own brain. Okay. And I want to hear you guys, because I mean, there's some people that are like, fire her now, get rid of her. Maybe she deserves that. Let's see how this plays out. Anyway, so Bondi's telling them, I've been advised by a whistleblower up at the Southern District of New York. I definitely don't have anything. What you've got in this binder is a big nothing burger. Most of the stuff's already out there, yada, yada, yada. All right, let's pick it up from there.
this, of course, if true, is the scandal of the century.
Yes.
That there are deep state agents, swamp creatures in the swamp, in the FBI, in the SDNY, that are defying the President of the United States, defying the Attorney General, defying the Director of the FBI. That is breathtaking. I'm at a loss for words in how breathtaking this is to see the swamp. Now, you and I know, Glenn, everyone with us today knows that just because you cut off the head of the snake, just because you replace the top political appointees at an agency, it doesn't remove immediately all of those who would wish to subvert the will of the president. That takes time.
Yep.
And so the fact that we have concrete evidence in the form of this tangible binder that they gave this to Pam Bondi and told her, this is it, this is a smoking gun, when it is a nothing burger, that is a huge story. The entire SDNY should be fired. This place should be absolutely razed.
I agree.
So put a pin in that for a second. That's what happened in the secure briefing room at the White House. We met with we went into the Oval Office. We talked to President Trump. We talked to Secretary of State Marco Rubio. We talked to HHS Secretary RFK Jr. And then, of course, we weren't allowed to have our phones on us during this time in the West Wing. They were in a secure box downstairs. We were told that, we needed to leave this secure briefing room because the UK Prime Minister was coming and they were going to take us out the back of the White House and downstairs to get our phone. We were, of course, really excited because we had just gotten a coin from the president personally. And, he was showing us the portraits in the Oval Office. I mean, it's a surreal experience to visit this central place of power. And we were really honored to have been there, as I think anyone would be. So we go out back, excited to get our phones, because as soon as we get these phones, we're going to dive into these binders. We know that there's nothing really in them, but we have this letter, this huge story to break that previously would have been given to the legacy media, but it was given to us about the SDNY. But as we're going out the back door, we're rushed a little bit by White House staff. And I personally found this funny because I'm a history nerd. We're told, hurry, the British are coming. The British are coming. Right. Because we needed to be out of the way of the hallway for the UK Prime Minister. Now, being the political nerds that we are, we all thought that was really funny. When's the last time someone shouted the British are coming in the White House? But once we get outside, we see that there's a gaggle of press, essentially in the bushes to the side of the White House. And the looks on their faces, so sour, so dour, so astonished to see us, because it wasn't a publicly announced meeting per se. And they were kind of like, what the heck are you guys doing here? And so we were, again, giddy from having been in the Oval Office, having just come out of a meeting with RFK where he was telling us some remarkable things he's working on. And they were curious about what we were holding. Now, this is a very important part of the story. We had not been told up to that point that there was any sort of embargo on this information. It was our impression at that moment that within about 2 minutes, we would be able to break the story of the SDNY stonewalling Pam Bondi. And so when the media was so sour and bitter that we had gotten this binder, yes, we were kind of laughing at them. We were holding up the binders in defiance, saying, you know what? You've been relegated to the bushes because you lie and you smear and you gaslight the American people, and we are the media now. And that was the background of that picture. Now, within about 2 minutes of that picture being taken, we were told, please don't report on the binder itself or the story about the SDNY until 3:30 in the afternoon, because they didn't want the press conference between Donald Trump and the UK Prime Minister to be solely focused on the SDNY Epstein files story. So all of a sudden, we are in this situation where the press has gotten photos of us with these binders that appear to be real Epstein files, and yet we knew that they were not. And we begged for the embargo to be lifted. The process of that embargo being lifted was frankly botched up. That should have been, I mean, it was an error on the part of the White House not to allow us to go ahead and do that. We, of course, were being respectful of that embargo because we were just given an exclusive story. But what happened then is pictures of us holding the binders were the only things that we were allowed to post at that moment. But we thought we'd be able, within about 5 minutes of those posts, just getting people's attention, to tell what the real story is.
Right.
And yet the embargo wasn't lifted. And so it created this situation. And I cannot even tell you how frantic I felt in this situation, Glenn, because it appears to be a bait and switch. And my goodness, that's the last thing that was ever intended. I was frantic behind the scenes telling the White House, you have to let me tell this story. You have to let me release this. Do you know what this looks like publicly? But unfortunately, it was at least over an hour before we were able to do that. And so in the interim, everyone in the country, understandably so, assumed that those binders were full of Epstein files, and they felt like we were withholding information from them. They felt like we were engaging in clickbait. They felt devastated and used when they found out there was nothing in it. And again, honestly, I'll be blunt. I totally understand why people are pissed off, because I am too about that.
Okay, I'm going to stop right there and bring it back in. And I thank you guys for being gracious, because that's a fairly long clip, but I wanted to be fair here. And now let me start out with some things. Okay. I am not taking Liz Wheeler's side in this. I'm not taking Pam Bondi's side in this. I'm like everybody else. What's the truth? What's going on here? Somebody just tell me what's happening here. Number one, I go back to what I said a moment ago. If you look, and this is a good point too, small time, a real member of the media does not celebrate somebody else being denied access. Okay. Don't believe me. The mainstream media has every reason to have their nose rubbed in the fact that they are slowly going extinct for various reasons of their own doing. There are so many reasons to rub the media's nose in how bad things are for them right now. That said, given the what it is you're dealing with here, Epstein, crimes against children, okay, everything else that goes with it. If you get a binder full of this information, okay, you tuck it under your arm, you politely walk away, and you shut up until you can get somewhere and tell people, or look at it and tell people what's going on. That's number one. Okay. I'm sorry. Lay aside everything else Liz Wheeler just laid out. I don't care. You don't get this stuff and go, I got some Epstein info. I got some Epstein info. That's just tacky, to use small time's word from earlier. It's just tacky. Okay. All right. Let us assume that Liz Wheeler here is not covering her butt or covering everybody else's butt. All right. They go into this room. In walks Pam Bondi and Kash Patel. They go through this discussion with them. But they don't tell them, hey guys, listen, we know you've got some stuff here. We know it's a nothing burger. We're telling you it's a nothing burger, but do us a favor. Okay? Do not start commenting on this, talking about it till after 3:30 today. Okay? If that's what actually happened, okay? If that's what actually happened here, and the press takes this picture of these folks holding up the binders, which again, their motivations doing in holding up the binders the way they did, the motivations suck. Okay? Okay? If they weren't told, hey, there's an embargo on this crap, do not talk about this till after 3:30. Okay? Hang on, Chris from Morning Mayhem. I'm not talking about Liz Wheeler's butt. I'm talking about her theoretical butt. Okay? Covering her backside. CYA is what I'm referring to. If they weren't told there's an embargo on this, and then they walked outside and these pictures get taken, okay, then I can understand the spot that they're caught in. Okay? I get that. Okay, this is a good way to do it. Best I can determine, Bondi has said from the beginning that the inflow was flight logs and stuff released. More is coming. Liz Wheeler and the crew were presented with a tidbit about the SDNY and told, keep it under wraps for now, then leaves and decides to taunt the legacy media about the binders. Yeah. And again, if they went out there and rubbed the nose in the media, oh, we got something you don't, look at what we got, and then your intention was, yeah, I'm going to tell everybody about this story, okay, there's just all the way around, this thing stinks. The social media influencers, as far as I'm concerned, some of them did not handle this well. I'm not going to say all of them because I don't know what I all did or didn't do, okay? Yeah, and this is a good point. This is a good point. These influencers did themselves no favors. Okay. Pam Bondi in this, I don't like, again, if what Liz Wheeler is saying is true, and again, I have no reason to believe it's not, so I'm just with a grain of salt. If what she's saying is true, and they were given this binder and the information about the Southern District of New York, but were not told, hey guys, there's an embargo on this, that's one thing. Okay? Because when the pictures got taken, they look like it puts them in a bad spot. The other problem is, like I said, these influencers going out and rubbing the nose of the press and the fact, hey, we got the Epstein binder, that's just tacky. You shouldn't have done it anyway, regardless of what happened in the meeting room with Pam Bondi and Kash Patel. You shouldn't even have done it. Okay? So there is all kinds of blame to go around about how this deal went down. Okay? Now let's get back to Bondi for a second. I have a very hard time. I'm sorry. Pam Bondi can, and I say this respectfully. I mean, look, I do not run in these circles. I don't have that kind of influence and power, so I get it. There are things I don't know, and I probably never will. That's fine. Okay? But you cannot tell me Pam Bondi could be that naive, number one, about the volume of documents related to the Jeffrey Epstein case. Number two, she couldn't be that naive about various parts of the Justice Department. The woman spent God knows how many months trying to get Donald Trump elected, telling everybody how corrupt the deep state is, and the Justice Department falls under the deep state. She couldn't be that naive about the volume of documents, the depravity of the deep state in the Justice Department, and then the depravity in the FBI. And if she is that not naive. That sort of begs the question, do we really want this woman as Attorney General? And again, TBA, brother, over on Rumble, I'm doing my best here. I am doing my best here to give Pam Bondi benefit of the doubt. Okay? So I get it. But man, this thing stinks to high heaven. And again, that also gets to another question. Okay? This is supposed to be the most transparent administration in history. All right, Pam Bondi laid down a deadline to Kash Patel that by Friday morning, 8 a.m., everything related to the Epstein case was to be in her office. Do we have an update on that yet? Do we know what the status of that situation is? I mean, look, lay aside everything else. Pam Bondi has a PR problem right now, public relations problem, okay? And that is, with all due respect to the Attorney General, she has stepped in it from a public relations standpoint, okay? You have gotten your hands on the most radioactive subject out there, Epstein, okay? You've told people documents are going to be released. What you've given people so far is a big nothing burger by your own admission. Okay? People are like, where's the name? Where are the names? Where's the justice? TBA over on Rumble says, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes, Brian. None of us do. The Bondi cash moves are intended to be deceptive to the general public. Okay, fair enough. I'm not saying you're wrong. Okay? I offer this. I would argue right now, Pam Bondi needs to be very careful with how she handles this. And by careful, I don't mean necessarily be more secretive or discreet than you need to be. What I mean is she needs, from a public relations standpoint, as soon as you got information that you can make available to people, I'm not even talking Epstein documents. I'm just talking about, tell us what's going on. Tell us what's happening. Keep us updated. I don't necessarily need, today I picked up a paper clip and I put it on a piece of paper. I'm not talking about relevant, substantive updates about what's going on. She needs to do this. And again, she's running one of the biggest departments in the United States government. I get it. Okay. So, I mean, she's put herself in a bad spot here. So, yeah, it's just, yeah. Hang on a minute. This lovely lady sent me a message in Discord. Ooh, lovely, lovely indeed. All right, what do we got here? Z Highness has sent me something. What is this? Ooh. Z Highness, I see what you sent me, and I'm going to take a look at this. And I'm not trying to tease anybody here, but I want to look at that off air. But thank you for sending that to me. I will absolutely take a look at it. Matter of fact, let me jot myself a note right now. Okay. Brother, I don't disagree with you. Yeah. And where's the beef? For all of us seasoned folk, I don't know that I'd call us older. I'd just say we're seasoned. But thank you, Duke, for that comment. I agree. Yeah, she's got to be real careful about how she handles this now. And again, she's running one of the biggest departments in the federal government. So she's flying at a level that I don't fly at. I get it. So let's see how this plays out. Let's just see how this plays out. But yeah, I want to do one more thing related to these discussions. And that Lana, that's a very good way of putting it. We are experienced. We're not old. So there you go. I want to read you guys something that General Mike Flynn posted the other day on Twitter. And I think this is, a matter of fact, you know what? I'm going to drop this in chat for you guys on both sides. Because I want you guys to see this. And you might want to take some time and read this on your own, but I'm going to put this up here because this is definitely worth some conversation points. This is General Flynn talking about the Epstein files, the release thereof. People are getting confused, and for good reason. The Southern District of New York in the U.S. Attorney Office, they are one among other offices that handled Epstein files. Another one is the FBI's New York office. Are they both hiding documents? Guess where McCabe was before he worked at the FBI's D.C. headquarters? He worked at the New York office. Other notable New York agents, Bill Priestap, among others in the cabal. Also, going a little further, also, all the Epstein files should be in a system called Sentinel. Sentinel houses all documents up to and including secret files. Top secret documents are on a separate system. Additionally, there is something called A1 envelopes. They are physically handled, not found in a computer system, meaning this is where they commonly hide stuff. You might say there are always physical files for all investigations. True. If there are physical files, these should still be eventually scanned into the system. If not, they are in A1 envelopes, like the notes we discovered from the deceitful and crooked FBI agents that interviewed me. Kash Patel and AG Pam Bondi need also look deeper into the Miami U.S. Attorney's Office. They provided the original sweetheart deal to Epstein, and this office and the FBI's Miami field office should have files too. FBI in Miami may have been directed to send everything to New York. That still has to be checked out. My assessment of the United States Attorney's Office in Miami could be very dirty on this Epstein file release. Keep in mind, they had jurisdiction over the Epstein Island originally. We should see all the evidence collected from that search. Bottom line, this needs to be rectified sooner than later because the longer this lingers, the more time people have to destroy evidence. Set a tight schedule, run it as a task force, ensure the victims are not exposed, use retired and other trusted persons, whistleblowers, and to mentor this task. Get it right. America and the world deserve the truth, and people who committed these acts against minors must be punished to the fullest extent of the law. Last piece of advice, follow the money. There will be gaps. Flynn brings up something that's very valid. Very valid. And it's this. Why are we just focusing on the question of the New York office, the Southern District? There is the New York office. There's the Miami office. There are offices all over this country that ought to have Epstein documents, either physical documents or scanned into a system. Okay? And again, maybe this is something that Bondi and Kash Patel are working on. We don't know. But I do agree with Flynn. They need to settle this thing fast. So, over on the Rumble side, we have I think someone new who stopped by. Salty Old Fart 70. Now that's a name Salty Old Fart 70. Good morning, friends. The deep state is embedded in our politics. Bondi and Kash are in the fight we are not privy to. Need to get the politics out of the DOJ. Well, I agree with everything you said, Salty, and welcome in. We're glad to have you here on Front Porch Brunch this morning. And, welcome in. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe on Rumble, subscribe on YouTube while you're at it. So, yeah, here's a good point. What the F happened to us being in the digital age? 3-ring binders in the 80s? Jeez. Well, that's true. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot in this that's going on, so we'll see what happens here. We will see what happens. Crazy stuff. Crazy. All right. We're at the bottom of the hour, the bottom of the 12 o'clock hour. Let me do a real quick commercial. Again, if you happen to be here on now a Saturday afternoon on the East Coast, and you're like, who the heck? Well, who the heck, or as we say in the Cincinnati area, who dey, as we Bengals fans chant, who dey, we be Brian Trippett, and we be the Front Porch Conservative, and this be Front Porch Brunch. This is a live stream that we do on the weekends where we get together and talk about the news, and everybody gets to give their opinions, or in some cases, vent as necessary, or rant as needed. And believe me, I am prone to a rant every so often. And we get together, we talk about what's going on, we have some fun, we enjoy each other's company. So if you're not subscribed to my channel on YouTube and Rumble, please do so. Also, hit the bell for notifications, leave a thumbs up, hit that thumbs up, daggone it. Leave some comments, go crazy, St. Louis, and we'll move on down the line. All right. We are now ready for that section of the live stream known as HodgePodge Stew. Now, for those of you who maybe are new, okay, HodgePodge Stew is that section of the show where I have found, or some people have found and sent me some stories that are not necessarily, above the fold, if I may use that old-fashioned term to describe internet jargon. They're not necessarily above the fold on the internet, but they're worth talking about. I think their things are interesting. So we're going to start off with some good news. For those of you who've been following the goings-on in Georgia, Western North Carolina, Virginia, and Tennessee, there is some good news coming out of Western North Carolina, and I thought you guys would want to see this. A lot has been made about the slow federal response, particularly under the Biden administration. Well, here's a piece of good news I think you guys will appreciate. These are pictures taken from Interstate 40, which runs through Western North Carolina. The I-40 highway in Western North Carolina crumbled into the river during Hurricane Helene. Has been closed for 5 months. It's now officially reopened. Department Secretary Sean Duffy allowed rock to be pulled from the river to rebuild 3 times faster and cheaper. And I'm just going to play this for you guys.
Down in below these track houses, I hope you can see some of that. They've had to work on all of that. Here's the main washout and the 2 lanes, one going each way. You can see down in the river gorge. Wow, it was gone. It was gone.
Well, at least they've got some work. At least that. Oh yes. Yes, that's a good point. One of our regulars is not here today, and God love her. She's one of our favorite people on this live stream. She goes by the handle Up in Connecticut. So please make it a point, and thank you, Gypsy, for reminding me about this. Please make it a point to go out on Twitter and send her a happy birthday. I'm sure she'd really get a kick out of it. And, she's not here today, but bless her heart, she's one of our regulars and one of my absolute favorites here on the Electronic Front Porch as a member of Fedora Nation. So, yeah, please go out on Twitter, send her a shout out, wish her a happy birthday. But, yeah, I-40 in Western North Carolina is finally reopened. And now they've still got some work to do on it, but thank God it's moving along. In another piece of good news, I guess you could say this is good news for Donald Trump. Headline, FBI returns property seized during the Mar-a-Lago raid. We'll read a little bit of this story. Articles written by Philip Timochichia. Okay, I'm from West Virginia. I don't know how to pronounce anything. The FBI is returning the property seized in the 2022 raid of Mar-a-Lago to President Trump, according to the White House. Quote, the FBI is giving the president his property back that was taken during the unlawful and illegal raids. We are taking possession of the boxes today and loading them onto Air Force One, said White House Communications Director Stephen Chung in a statement on Friday. Chung added that some of the boxes were loaded onto the plane, before Trump's Friday flight back to Florida. Alina Habba, the president's counselor, said Friday that she loaded some of the infamous boxes herself onto Air Force One. Quote, justice has been and will continue to be restored in this country under President Trump. Truth and justice always win in the end. God bless America, she said in a Friday post on Twitter. The FBI took 33 boxes during the August 22nd court-authorized search of Mar-a-Lago as part of a probe into President Trump's alleged mishandling of classified documents and alleged obstruction of officials' efforts to get them back. He asked the question, what about Tulsi and her degenerate underlings? Well, good news there, and I don't have an article pulled up, but I can share this. They're fired, as far as I know. Small time. Don't tease me with a good time. Don't tease me with a good time. Oh, the temptation. Oh, the temptation, laddie. Oh, the temptation indeed. Now, here's a story. I'm going to take a couple of minutes with this, and we'll probably close it out right here because we're going on past 2 hours now, and I know you guys got lives and things you got to do. But this is one I want to take a few minutes with because to me, this is emblematic of what's going on right now. I've got a story here, and this came out on Thursday, and I want to talk about it. Judge orders rescission of Office of Personnel Management memos directing agencies to fire probationary employees. Now, for those of you who may not know what this is about, Office of Personnel Management sent out a memo telling all the agencies, hey, if you've got probationary employees, be prepared to let them go. Okay. Now, keep in mind, this memo comes from the Office of Personnel Management, okay, which is under the president. It goes President, Office of Management and Budget, and Office of Personnel Management, okay? They sent out a memo telling everybody, hey, by the way, if you've got probationary employees, be prepared to let them go, okay? Got some cost-saving stuff going on here. So they go to court, and a judge rules that you have got to rescind that order. But it's what happens in the rest of this article that cracks you up. It's written by Ella Lee. We've got the following. A federal judge on Thursday ordered the Office of Personnel Management to rescind memos that directed agencies across the federal government to fire probationary employees, finding they were likely unlawful. Okay. Now listen to this. U.S. District Judge William Alsup said OPM must notify agencies that did not have the authority to call for the firing of those employees, but stopped short of directing agencies themselves not to continue with terminations. The order only applies to agencies with ties to the plaintiffs in this case, but the judge urged the government to go a step further and notify other agencies as well. Now listen to this. Okay. Listen to what the judge wrote. Quote, the Office of Personnel Management does not have any authority whatsoever under any statute in the history of the universe to hire and fire employees within another agency. The agencies could thumb their nose at OPM if they wanted to. Alsup said he would release an opinion with further details in due course. An evidentiary hearing is expected next month, where the judge said he wanted the OPM acting director, Charles Ezel, to testify. Now, the reason that I want to talk about this for a second is this. And this is, we're headed for a major, major fight at the Supreme Court, because I'm sorry, that's where this is going. This case and others just like it, okay, we're headed to the Supreme Court. And basically, it gets down to this. I mean, I could sit here and use all kinds of fancy legal terminology, but the issue is this: who runs the executive branch? Is it the president, or is it the bureaucracy? Now, here's what I'm getting at. I said this the other day on Greg Bolden and Chris Michaels' live stream. We are engaged right now in the biggest fight internally as a nation that we have had since the Civil War. Yeah, and there are no guns blazing. It's not like cannon fire is going off or anything like that. But what I mean is there is a very serious fight between the deep state, however you want to define that, the deep state, the bureaucracy, whatever you want to call it, versus constitutional liberty-minded individuals, okay? Which I would put all of us in that category. And I would put Donald Trump in that category and J.D. Vance in that category and you know, the folks that are working at the various as cabinet secretaries, okay? The Constitution is pretty clear. The power of the executive is fully vested in the president. Matter of fact, hang on one moment because I want to quote this exactly. Okay. One moment. Okay. Quote, the executive power shall be vested in a president of the United States. Notice it doesn't say we're going to vest it in the bureaucracy that works for him. We're going to vest it in judges. We're going to vest it in anybody else. Chris, thanks for stopping by, brother. And thank you for the gifted memberships over there on Rumble. And by the way, subscribe to that good man. He's doing some good work. My Morning Mayhem. It doesn't say anybody else except the President of the United States. If we are going to have any hope of reforming our government and truly eliminating fraud and waste, then you've got to have an executive with the power to be able to hire and fire personnel. Okay? And that's why I say all of this is headed for a fight at the Supreme Court. Because we're going to find out what kind of government we've really got. We're going to find out if the executive power truly is vested in the President of the United States, or if it can be dispersed around to this party over here and this party over here and yada, yada, yada. You have a judge literally telling the executive branch, the Office of Personnel Management, you have no authority to hire and fire anybody. There's no statute in the universe that gives you that power. And the executive branch is going, well, if I can't fire anybody, then what the hell am I doing running the government? Who's running the government? 17 George over on Rumble says, the fight going to the Supreme Court is what Trump wanted. I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. WWG1 says separation of power. Yeah, exactly. This has got to get settled. And I don't mean just for the sake of Trump. I mean going forward as a country. The heck kind of government have we got here? You know, so keep your eyes on that one. I think that one's going to wind up being a real good one. Real good one. All right. Let's bring the train into the station. It's about 12:45 Eastern, 11:45 Central. You guys have been absolutely fantastic today. And I'm going to admit it. I am so glad to be back in the chair. Don't get me wrong. There's going to be some Saturdays some weekends I can't do brunch for various reasons, but man, did I have fun today. And I hope you did too. Like I said, if you're new to the Electronic Front Porch, go ahead and subscribe on YouTube and Rumble. We're glad to have you here. I'll be back next week with videos, live streams, that sort of thing. This coming Wednesday night, TBA says, when are you going to be back on Rumble, Brian? Let me see if I can get a guest for next week. I'm going to reach out to somebody and see if I can get them on. And if that's the case, I'll let you know for sure. But for sure, we're back next Saturday. Wednesday night, I will be over on Tracy Barkley's channel. Gen X marks the spot for the Wednesday night newsroom. And so, yeah, we're going to be back as much as we can. But guys, you have been awesome. Thank you for the gifted memberships. Thank you for the super stickers. Thank you for all the comments. I am so glad. I'm so glad to be here doing this, what I'm doing. Thank you for everything you're doing to support me and the channel. Tell your friends. We will be back. And with that, folks, you guys have a great weekend. And remember the words of that great American philosopher, Tom T. Hall, when he said, it's faster horses, younger lovers, older whiskey, and more money. I love you guys very much. You have a great weekend. We'll catch up with you.